Folks, hello. I hope things are going well where you are. I have noticed recently there is a lot of griping going on in the Warhammer 40,000 discourse circle. Sometimes I'm one of those people, but there is one thing that really tends to irk me, and that is people complaining about things and not offering any solutions on how they'd fix the problem. So, as you know, quite often, I do this on my videos too. I will sit there and I will talk through what I would do about a problem to try and fix it. And I thought, over the weekend, why not expand this to the Northern Exile community to see what you guys think about Warhammer 40,000 going forwards. And I asked you to respond to me with the following prompt. And that is, let's have a little look-see. What would you change about Warhammer 40,000 to make it a success in 11th edition? Now, I know a few of you out there may already be thinking, well, I quite like 10th edition, and that is great. If you like 10th edition, that is all awesome for you, and I'm very, very, very happy that you like the 10th edition. I think it's awesome that you've got something that you like, but the vast majority of people that we know and love who are in the hobby, your friends, family members, I don't know, they all tend to come out with some sort of diatribe on why 10th edition has failed. I did this just myself a few weeks ago, right? Where I said, look, 10th edition for me is awful, it doesn't really represent what I like about 40k, and it is really overly geared towards competitive players, and that's not something I like to do, and so I don't really rate this, you know, lovely piece of media very highly right now. So, what we're going to do is read these awesome comments below and start to get your opinions on what you would do with 11th edition to bring it back into what you would like 40k to be, right? And then later on this week, if we can sort it out, or maybe even next week, we will get Outer Circle on to give his opinion, because that is a man who has walked away from 40k a long time ago, and I'd love to get his opinion on what would bring him back. You know, what would get him to put his foot in the water of 40k going forwards. Anyway, all right. If I read out something and then I read your post out as well, and it has already been covered, I will skip it. So it's not me saying that your opinion isn't valid. It's literally me saying we've already said it in the video, so we don't need to say it anymore. All right. All right. System error 6312 said, codexes that don't go out of date within 3 months of release would be a good start. I agree. I agree. This is something, though, that we would only ever find out towards the end of a cycle of an edition, right? We would only ever find out that they're doing that towards the end. I said a while ago with 10th edition that if I was Games Workshop, I wouldn't have released 10th edition when I did. I would have released it around about now, right? Maybe next summer, 2025, right? And I would have done it. 10th edition is the edition of Warhammer 40,000 that we're sticking to, right? You put all of your resources into playtesting this game to hell and back, right? You do 2 distinct versions of the game, one for competitive play to be used at tournaments like an esport, that will be continuously updated every single week. I'm serious, every week, because that's what they like. And the other, a narrative, you know, old school 40k rule set that is out and will be updated once every couple of years, right? That is just for playing at home with your friends and chilling out and rolling some dice. That's what I would do. And I would make that the de facto going forwards. These are the bones that we're going to build upon. That's what I would do, right? And then for the next 10 years, 10th edition is all we have. We just keep updating it, we keep running with it, right? Because it's properly playtested, and we put lots of resources behind it. Do I trust Games Workshop to do that? No! But it would solve us this one problem of codexes coming out like the Imperial Agents Codex. I've told this story many a time, right? Some of the first big complaints I had as a Games Workshop manager was because, at the time, 7th edition was going out the window, right? And 8th edition was just coming around the corner. And a few people in our store bought Imperial Agents Codexes, and these codexes came out towards the end of 7th edition. Within a few months, that codex is no longer in the game because 8th edition is so different to 7th, it may as well be a completely different thing altogether. And there was no Imperial Agents Codex. So that was it. Your army was done. Your army is now useless. That book you bought for £35, nice hardback cover, yeah, useless. Doesn't mean anything. May as well throw it in the bin, right? Yeah, we got tons of complaints about that, and that was the first time I was exposed to something of that nature that really wasn't very nice. And I agree with you, System Error. I think that needs to be addressed going forwards. All right, Chudius says, alternative activations. Now, this is a big one. This is a big one. So I've seen arguments on both sides of this, right? Let me just take a sip of coffee here. It's going to be a long one, I think. Yeah, so alternative activations. No more pre-measuring. Squad sizes not locked to certain numbers. War gear costs points again, and a focus on more terrain rules so every game board isn't just L-shaped ruins. Yeah, all right. I completely agree with all of that. That is what I like that. I think that's great. I think we're going back to more. I think what you're trying to do there, Chudius, apart from alternate activations, but I think that is also in this, is that you're trying to give people ownership of their army. Do you know what I mean? Which I think is really cool. You absolutely should be giving people ownership of their army. You absolutely should be giving them ownership over their own playstyle. Squad sizes being locked is something that has been done for esports. That is something that has been done for esports and competitive play. And this is one of the problems we are having, is that 10th edition is heavily geared towards esports. It's heavily geared towards being sweaty and being, you know, one of those kinds of players where everything needs to be homogenized, everything needs to be boiled down to just the most balanced and unfun version of itself, because you don't want to upset anybody, right? Yeah, that's not how I work, though. War gear costs points again. That's the big one, isn't it? War gear costing points again. Because remember back in the day when you used to be able to create basically your own warlord straight from the off. You could just create it. You could give him your own war gear, your own armor, your own special rules, and the Codex would support you in that. It would say, yes, this is how much a warlord would cost if you did a Space Marine captain, for instance, who had a relic blade, artificer armor, and a bunch of other things that you've added, and a bunch of special rules that you've taken from the rulebook. Here's how much that would cost in the rules, right? And you could do that and field it, and it was great and legal, and everybody had a fun time, right? Yes. I think what you're going against here, Chudius, is the homogenization of 40k. Everything's the same now, because we can't risk it being unbalanced, because Games Workshop don't, and they feel their pain, by the way. They don't feel that they can actually trust you to not be wantonly unfair about these things going forward, so they try and treat you like a child. Anyway, Latros, I will heart that one, sorry about that. Latros says, first of all, make the rules 100% free for the entire edition, and codexes are an optional purchase if you would like new lore, artwork, painting guides, etc. I've said that for years. I have said that for years. I think what he means there is, before people clamour on Latros and say, well, they're already free. No, codexes are not free. This is what he's saying. He says, the rules that are in the codex should be free. They should be collector's items with artwork, painting guides, etc. Right? That's what they should be. Because then you eliminate the fact that when you bring out a codex, it's out of date within a few weeks because they've changed the rules. The main thing you buy your codex for is rules. Let's be honest, I'm a lore guy, but the main thing you buy your codex for is rules to play your games of Warhammer 40,000. That's what it's marketed for. A1, that's what you market codexes for, right? So if you change the rules that are in the codex a couple of weeks after, and you've already got a printed version in your hand, your book is now useless. You do not have the most up-to-date rules. When people hated on Leagues of Atan back in the day, do you know what I felt most sorry for? Leagues of Atan players. You know why? Yeah, they had a few weeks of having a broken army that was really good. But then their codex is worthless, because they changed everything about the army after that to bring it in line. Why? Because people were bitching and complaining because it wasn't balanced and homogenized and grey, like sludge, like everything else in 40k. I've said this before. If you can't make rules, then don't make them. Make unbalanced rules. It's fine, right? Go out and make the most broken codexes and have every single codex be broken in its own way. That's fine. As long as every codex is broken in its own way, things are balanced. Do you know what I'm saying? Balance finds itself. But if you try and do things like this, it just... Your design philosophy at the start of a Warhammer 40,000 edition should be everybody gets broken-ass shit. Everybody gets amazing, over-the-top, Warhammer 40,000 style grimdark rules to blast their friends off the table with. Right? We don't do balance. We don't do balance. But we kind of do, though, don't we? Because if every codex is broken in its own way, there is balance, isn't there? Right? You haven't given to one and taken away from another, as we see with the poor Adeptus Mechanicus in this edition, right? Anyway, as for the game itself, I would love it if they brought back the Force Organization charts and introduced some free reactions, like from 30k. Okay, that's a more tempered alternative activation. In addition, make your factions detachments have restrictions on what units you may include, but receive a buff to thematic units. Now, I don't agree with that one. I don't agree with this. Make your factions detachments have restrictions on what units you may include, but receive a buff to thematic units. Those are formations from the end of 7th edition, and those were terrible. That was a bad idea by Games Workshop. Well, for us it was a bad idea. For them it was a great idea, because they sold lots of models that they wouldn't have sold in any other way. Do you know how many drop pods I sold because people wanted to do the Skyhammer detachment formation? Right? Nobody bought drop pods until that came out, and then everybody bought drop pods. I didn't have any left. I sold about 30 or 40 of them. That's ridiculous, right? So, no, I disagree with that bit. Lastly, make characters more customizable and have less restrictions on what units they could join. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with that bit. Okay. C Robot says, making line of sight rules more coherent and making true line of sight make sense. An example. If my Marine is in a raised sword posed behind a container and only a third of the sword is visible behind the container, it should not be allowed to be shot at. I agree. I agree. Again, we're seeing a big theme here. These rules are made to boil things down for competitive play. Right? That is why that rule exists. It's so you don't have to be calling over your tournament organizer to look at whether something can be seen or not. If you say, I can see your toe, or God forbid, I can see the shield on top of your head, or I can see the sword that you're holding up, I can now see you, you now don't need to slow down your tournament for a rules clarification on whether you can see a model or not, right? I get why they've done that, but it is really lame. Very, very lame, you know? Or gaining benefit of cover on big miniatures because they tip, because the tip of a claw is hidden. Nonsense like that. It ultimately makes the game unnecessarily long because both players are micromanaging positioning. Also, please Games Workshop, give the Vanguard veterans their weapon profiles back. Yeah, I agree. Well, weapons profiles should come back regardless, across the board. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, but all of these changes are made to speed up the game in tournaments and in competitive play. They do not think about the casual person who just wants to throw some dice and have some fun, right? And by the way, no matter what you do, Games Workshop, if any of you ever listen to this, no matter what you do at a tournament, those players, those competitive players, will always find a way to slow the game down. That's what they do. That's literally what they do. You shouldn't have a go at them because of it. That's how they play the hobby, right? They're going to look for every single micromanagement advantage that they can because they're playing a competitive game. So even if you bring in cover mechanics that are meant to speed up the game, all that means is that they will try to abuse them in a different way, i.e. putting your claw into a building from a massive model and saying, it's got a cover save, right? Nonsense. Nonsense. And the game doesn't work because of it. Anyway, and this is why you don't pander your game to competitive circles, because this is the kind of thing that happens. Again, competitive people, not saying you don't deserve to be here, of course you do. What I'm saying is there should be two separate versions of Warhammer 40,000 for you and everybody else. Gilbert7110 says, one thing, or as many as I want. Well, we'll do one, okay? If one, simple. More monies per box, with more options of loadouts and customization. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Regarding the codexes, you and many others have said, everything that is needed. Not just that, what Games Workshop is obliged to do. Okay, so in terms of your customization, I agree. I really like the new boxes, especially of Marines. I think they're really cool. Do you know what my favourite box is? The Blade Guard box. There are so many options for posing in that Blade Guard box. I have 3 swords left over from my Blade Guard box after absolutely building out. And do you know what I did? Each of my Blade Guards in the Emperor's Wolves has dual blades. 1 in each hand. They don't use shields. I was able to do that, and I still had sword arms left over with swords attached to them. I still had scabbards left over. That's the kind of set I want. Here is your unit, and here are multiple different ways of building that unit in the same box. That's a good box. I really like that, right? But, of course, Blade Guard are a more elite unit. You're going to get more options. I think what we're saying here is, in our Intercessor units, we want different things, different poses, right? I shouldn't be seeing the same dude fighting in the same way, because the amount of times I've built an Intercessor box, got into the final 2 or 3 Marines and gone, oh, hang on, I've only got the options to build an exact replica of one of my previous Marines in this box now. That sucks. Give us more options. Let us kit bash a bit more. I agree. Gadge Box says, make the lore feel like it's part of the game again by allowing unique and fun rules. Okay. Yeah. No problem there. Robo Dragon Knight says, one thing my brother and I liked in 9th was the ability to make your own sub-faction. Something as simple as pick 2 from the following, with a list of small buffs, gives players creative freedom, and gives the game replayability. And if there's already rules or something, don't remove them. Yes, I play Deathwatch. Yes, I'm still upset. And yes, I'm done with Games Workshop and made my own Deathwatch Codex. Good for you, man. Good for you. You took my advice. If we don't like what Games Workshop are doing, cut them out the hobby, right? Now, this is a guy... Remember when we were talking about the female custodies thing and I said it doesn't matter? Why? Because Games Workshop don't matter, right? Robo Dragon Knight actually has every single reason to say, yeah, it does matter, because they literally nuked my codex. I can't play my army anymore. This guy has every reason, in my opinion, to absolutely lambast Games Workshop or not like them at all and go after them, right? And I agree, you know? Moral things and lore things you can kind of ignore, because the lore doesn't matter, because Games Workshop can't write it anyway. That was my point. But things like this, when they're like, oh yeah, you don't get to play with your army anymore, sorry. No, fuck you. Fuck you. Right? Deathwatch are cool. Deathwatch are one of the coolest armies that you have. So, you know, how about you suck my balls? Yeah? How's that sound? So good on you, Robo Dragon Knight, for going and making your own codex. And I hope your friends like to play with it as well. It sounds really cool. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, doing your own sub-faction would be pretty cool. Alright. Waiting for something to happen says, if it's just focusing on rules, I think Games Workshop should make 3 rule sets. One that is improved current competitive rules, where they continue to perfect these rules. The second will be taking from 3rd to 7th edition to create a more narrative set of rules based around flavour and customization of your own guys with war gear that costs points. The third game mode would be very bare bones a rule set that would let you explore either rule sets and slowly get the hang of it by allowing you to add different mechanics in a modular way. I think this would be nice to have an official rule set for narrative players to mess around with, while also giving competitive players and new players their own arenas. I'd also like if Games Workshop gave us different tools from older editions and a mix of new to create our own narratives, invest our own kit-bashed units, and more to make our guys even more ours. I agree verbatim. I agree verbatim with all that. That sounds like a really good idea. Because one thing we always kind of miss is new players. That's one thing we always kind of don't get right? We don't look at new players in the way that we should. Or we kind of disregard them. You can play narrative with us. Well, what if even narrative is too much? What if they just want to, you know, inject modular rules into their games as they go? This is a really good idea. Having 3 rule sets is a really good idea. You know? Absolutely great idea. All in the same rule book, of course. You know, but yeah, this is great. I'd say maybe adding activations, or if they don't, reactions, like if a unit shoots at yours, you can shoot at the same time with the full strength of your unit, but then since you activated them, they would lose their next turn. This would work if there is an alternation of who starts, but okay, yeah, that's cool, yeah, I'm okay with that one. Last thing would be Games Workshop trying to plug the holes in the bucket through more transparency, better communication, and a bigger respect for their players. I think that they should always announce the release date of new models and when they will be coming separately. I also think that at the beginning of the edition, Games Workshop should release a roadmap of their goals for that edition and what model refreshes they are planning on doing. This is something I really agree with too, but it is something Games Workshop, even when they started to change and started to be more customer facing, were really bad at. And they're still really bad at it. Communicating what's coming out and when, and why it's coming out, and how it's coming out, is something Games Workshop fail at miserably. I am really surprised they're able to sell as much as they do. And even then, they could be making a lot more money if they just handled their communication with us a little bit better, so I agree. This also includes changing the Codex system, where the rules should be online, and Codexes should be mainly a big book of amazing new art, and yeah, we've seen that already. Yeah, transparency as to what is happening in the company would also be nice, and what they want to do to fix it would be cool. Also, telling us a few months in advance when they are removing models from the range to give us time to get them if we want them. Also, price decrease, or yeah, but that's never happening. That's never happening. Price decrease, or at least warn us a few months in advance of price changes. That's all I got. Cheers. Oh, edit. I forgot to add Games Workshop trust and use the community, whether it is allowing us to grow the hobby through art, supporting our creators without demanding them to sell their stuff and give perfect reviews, use the community as playtesters, and more. Again, most of these points I completely agree with. The price thing is never happening, unfortunately. Dustadan says, less rerolls, alternative activations, and more fluffy rules. Okay. Drunken Deer says, bring back campaign-focused style Codex rulebooks that the missions can follow a path of narrative consequences. Betrayal of Calth on a large scale. The games essentially are telling the next segment of the new edition's lore. Great idea. Great idea. I always miss the I really miss what remember the tree campaigns. I miss those so much. Those were really cool. Stujum or Stu Jim. Stu JM 84 says, remove command point rerolls. Bring back epic moments that don't get ruined because of them. Yeah, a friend of mine about this. I was watching an Everton game yesterday that they inevitably lost because they're Everton. But they had a goal ruled out for offside that was a really good goal. And it was marginal. I mean, like, marginal. It wasn't really offside from when I was looking at it, right? And VAR, the video-assisted referee, stopped the entire game on the excitement that was happening. Oh my god, it's 1-1. What's going to happen now? And they took 5 minutes and then decided, no, it's not a goal. We're not doing that. It's too fun. And they pulled it back, right? Command point rerolls are kind of that. It's like, stop. Stop. No, we're stopping that awesome moment from happening. Reroll. Yeah, it didn't happen. You know, that I see it used far too often for things like that. Whenever have you seen a person be brave enough to use a command reroll to make something more awesome happen? Never happens, does it? It's always, I want to save this guy from dying. I want to save that thing from not fluffing. I want to see, yeah, it's always, I get what he's saying here. It's a dumbing down of the narrative. You're removing the randomness of 40k. You're saying, you know, oh yeah, this is really cool. Look what happened here. Oh no, it didn't because I command re-rolled it. So it's, you know, there's no excitement here. Nothing to see here, right? I get what you're saying. Super duper happy time says 11th edition 40k as is. Scrap it. We're doing 10th edition. 10.5 edition. Okay. End of 10th. End 10th edition with a State of the Galaxy story. You know, Prior Nexus ends in Necron Minor victory. Sector half lost. Some kind of Sisters miracle saving a few planets. Too bad the goal was to keep the Nids at bay. Nids move. Okay. This is very higgledy-piggledy. Nids move further towards Terra. Okay, this is a big thing of what you would do with the lore. That's fine. But that's not what the video is about. So I will skip ahead a little bit. Launch box. with Emperor's Children versus Ynnari Eldar, combining Eldar and Drakari sculpts that are missing. Okay, I like that. I like that as a new thing. What you've done here, though, is you've done a point by point of, like, you know, what you would release and when. I mean, you know, I like it. I like the ideas. It's just it's not really something that I think people would lose their minds if I read all of this out. I like it, though. I like it. I like it. I like the ideas. Oh, Grey Knights. But really, what North is most interested in, Grey Knights in 10.5 edition. They are no longer their own faction, but a major subsect of the Imperial Agents army, which is designed to be the Imperium soup that everyone really wants to build. I don't like losing my own army, so no. I don't understand why you can't do both. Why can't we have Death Watch and Imperial Agents? Why not? Right? Why can't we have Death Watch and Imperial Agents? I don't understand that. Why can't we have Grey Knights and Imperial Agents? Just irks me. Like, I stop taking away options. Please stop taking away options. I like the fact that you put in a lore thing here, though. I'm going to read this out off screen and maybe reply to you in a comment, because that's pretty cool. Anyway, Raygun 9000 says, to make it a financial success, scrap codexes. Make faction lore books to coincide with model releases. Free rules online. Option to pay for printed rules indexes like Xenos, Chaos, Imperium, etc. Yeah, I agree with that. Encourage use of models from Heresy, Age of Sigmar, and Old World. What, in 40k? Points should be solely focused on internal balance. That way they can be tweaked at a macro scale if necessary. Example, 10% extra for underperforming armies and minus 5% for overperforming ones. Stratagems should be faction specific. I previously thought they should be universal, but their effectiveness varies with each faction. Have about 10, with each faction formation swapping one for a unique one. Expand the starter box format, get a free rulebook with 2 different combat patrols. Okay. I like all those ideas. All those ideas are cool. Very good ideas. Stefank says, make different rule sets for different types of players. We've done that one, but thank you very much, Stefank. Caspian Chapley says, or Chalfie, focus on rules as lore. In a different subject, I'd bring in some flavorful rules. I know some say, go back to X edition rules, or use the Horus Heresy rules, but to me, I want the new edition rules to give me the feeling like I'm actually playing as this faction. This is something that I've said about one-page rules, right? I said it to Amber King the other day. I said, look, the reason why I like OPR so much is because when I'm playing OPR, I feel like I'm playing the opponent general. I don't feel like I'm playing the army, right? I mean, of course, I'm playing against the army. I'm playing against your army. I know that, right? But you can take exactly the same Grey Knight list in OPR, and you can play it one-page rules, and you can play it in so many different ways as a general that it kind of doesn't matter. It kind of like, say I'm playing you, Caspian, right? I'm playing you. I've got my Grey Knights, and you've got your Tau, right? All right. I'm playing against your Tau. Now, Tau in OPR, in one-page rules, can be played in a myriad of different ways. But you've got quite a balanced list there. Just a normal list of Tau. But I'm playing you, and you're quite aggressive, right? You're advancing up the field. You're setting up aggressive gun lines and crossfires against me. And I'm trying to, like, figure out a way behind your lines to try and take you on multiple angles at once. It's quite a close match, right? And then I play Stefank with the same army. He has the same Tau army, but he sits further back. He starts setting up defensive positions. He starts using the terrain of the board in very clever ways to block off my sight lines and close off charging opportunities. He plays the exact same Tau list in a very different way, and the rules encourage him to do so. That's what I love about one-page rules. I know I'm playing Tau, but I feel like I'm playing against Caspian, because he's got his own distinctive playstyle with exactly the same list that Stefank has. But Stefank plays it in a very specific way that I know I'm playing Stefank. I feel like it's two generals with opposing styles fighting each other on the tabletop. 40k is basically Caspian's playing Tau, so I know how he's going to play. Do you know what I'm saying? Caspian plays Tau, and he's got that list, so he's going to play this way. That takes away from the intrigue and the fun of the wider hobby in general, in my opinion. And it's the one main thing that OPR gets right that 40k doesn't. I feel like hopefully soon I'm gonna get to play one-page rules with Mordian Glory. Really looking forward to that. I know if Mordian Glory had a guard army, which he will do probably, right? If he has a Mordian army and he plays it one way and another guy plays it another way, exactly the same list, we'll get different experiences, and that's brilliant. If we played 40k, he plays a Mordian army. If I go and read up the Mordian Iron Guard rules, I think that's Mordian Iron Guard, is it not? If I go read up their rules, then I know how they're going to play, regardless of who's playing them. That's not a very good game, in my opinion. Basically, make the faction rules match the faction's lore without making things unfair. Example, Grey Knights can have other psychic powers too, but most of their powers should be about buffing themselves and their allies while debuffing their enemies. They should have a fair few powers that are good against demons, but it shouldn't be at a point where their powers are useless against other factions like Tau or Guard. Also, while they are a foil against demons, it shouldn't be guaranteed that they win every time. You should still have to think in order to win. Demons should not have any rules that counter Grey Knights. If I recall, there was at least one rule that they had in an older edition that countered the Grey Knight advantage, and it was used only against Grey Knights. None of that. Yeah, I agree. I agree on both senses, you know. Grey Knight should have a marked advantage against demons. If you're at an event, a demon player should see your Grey Knight list and go, ho ho, hope I don't get drawn against him in this tournament. Why? Because that's the game. Balance in a game like this is death. It's death. Like your game's dead. Like if you try and balance everything, you lose all of the spark. What I mean by dead is, I don't mean you can't play the game. I don't mean the game's unplayable. What I mean is that the spark of intuitiveness, the spark of imagination and fun goes. If you say, no, Grey Knights are just more expensive Space Marines with one or two extra bits and bobs, that's it, right? And they can teleport like Eldar now. That's not Grey Knights. That's literally not how Grey Knights are on the lore. Right, Grey Knights, they should be taking on massive, great big monsters and demons. That's what they should be good at. But because of their low numbers, they could lose very easily against a normal Marine army, or a Tau army, or anybody else, right? There shouldn't be one size fits all. Or at least you should have to really, really change your tactics with Grey Knights to beat other armies. But if you're against big, massive monster armies, or you're against Primarchs, or you're against demons, Grey Knight should be the bane of those armies. You should be like, oh my god, no, oh my god, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with different armies being hard counters to other armies. As long as it's, as Caspian says here, as long as it's not an auto win, yeah, Grey Knight shouldn't auto win against demons, but they should be very powerful against them. And if I'm a demon player playing Grey Knights, I should be fighting an uphill battle. And it should feel that way. And if I win, it's amazing play by me that I've won. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, trying to please everybody, you please nobody. Anyway, moving on, Caspian, because we've been with you for a while now. As Kamoski says, integrate codexes into Warhammer Plus to make it worth the subscription. I would rather pay an £8 a month for access to all armies, as well as whatever other stuff they put on there. I love codexes, but just have them as the big lore art books that they are updated with each massive lore change so they can cross editions. Yeah. Yeah, love that. I think that's a really good way of doing it, yeah. Make rules online and free to download. Yep, cool with that. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, love it. Have a love heart. Jacob Wilbers says, they should have a system where you can pay like the cost of the Codex early and get invited to a beta test community for it. They're never going to do that. There'll be too many leaks. There'd be too many leaks. They're never going to ever do that. Sorry, man. I wish it were true, but they're never going to do that. Have a heart instead. Games Workshop gets the Codex money and players get their better rules. They're never going to do it, though, man. They're never going to do it. Every faction should be assigned to a community manager that is the advocate for that faction inside the company. Fair enough. Game Time says, make cheaper starter boxes. Okay. Merlin says, roll the rules back to 4th edition. Okay. Vitev says, I so desperately want my granularity back with individual points cost. I want to be able to field 6-man squads without paying for 10, or adding a second plasma gun to my Skitarii instead of the forced 1 or each weapon. I don't care that 2 don't come in a box. Why would I field an anti-tank gun, an anti-elite infantry gun, and an anti-sniper rifle, all in the same squad? It's stupid. I agree. More modularity, more expression is what we want in our armies. I agree. Greasy Smith says, if I could do anything, I'd probably do alternating activations for units and make the game D10 based. That's never happening. That's never happening. So many rerolls to represent characters being better than others in certain things. Okay. I agree with the alternative activations, but the other thing is not happening. Focus on making great models so I can use them in one-page rules. Yeah, okay. The Drop Podcast says, where do I start? So, there would be 2 editions. Warhammer 40k Novellus, for those of you with much more creative name, which is all about creating storied battles in the universe and narrative-focused gaming. Then, Warhammer TE, Tournament Edition, both of which are now called Living Editions, which means no more numbered editions. Once these rules are purchased as core rules, all army release rules are free and updated for free within a digital format. Okay, the game will sell like wildfire and return everybody to the hobby. Well, okay. One thing I'm saying there is, when people say to you, oh, you can't stop bringing out new editions of rules because they're a big money spinner for Games Workshop. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Do you know what is a big money spinner for Games Workshop? The box. The box that the models are in. Do you really say that you bought the Leviathan box set for the rulebook? Is that what you're telling me? Or did you buy it for the badass models that were in there of updated sculpts for models that you haven't seen in years? The second one, isn't it? Yes. So if they brought one of those out every single summer, Games Workshop could do that. They could refresh the entire range by focusing on a single massive conflict in the galaxy every year. Keep the rules the same, right? And of course, release a nice rule book with them, But you could do a new edition rule book every single year. A big box. A Leviathan box every summer. Or a Leviathan style box every summer with different things in it. So you've got Necrons versus Eldar. You've got Orcs versus Tyranids. You've got, every year something different. There'll be Space Marines against Chaos Space Marines. Yeah, of course. You could do one in Christmas and one in the summer. And each of those is a big box exploring the current narrative of Warhammer 40,000 with the most up-to-date rules in the box in the form of Rulebook 2. And you could say, this is just 10th edition, right? But we're going to reiterate on it and reiterate on it and reiterate on it to make sure that we nail it. Every 6 months, we're going to bring this out again and again and again. And if you only want the models, that's fine because the rules are free anyway. That'd be the way to do it. I've said it so many times. Have a love heart there, my friend. Stratagems equals gone. Okay, good opinion, okay. Making it, it says Drazakan Dynasty, okay. Boots Drew says, making it so new players don't hit a wall on entry to the hobby. They want to make the game more accessible to everyone, but block out new players by not gaming in store, having extremely high prices, and overcomplicating the rules. I agree with every single iota of this sentiment. Every single bit of it. Yes. Absolutely. You cannot call your company Games Workshop and then not allow games in your store. That's just retarded. I very rarely use that word, but that is just retarded. Like, why? Like, allow games in your stores, especially for new customers, especially for new people who want to play games that are 1,000 points or below. If you want to limit your games in store to 1,000 points or below, fine. People would get along with that. They'd go, fine, because I've got places to play with my big-ass army, right? Good. And if I want a nice little chill game of 40k to have some fun with, I can go into Games Workshop and advertise my hobby by having fun. Arseholes. Moody Minis says, make the core rules and codex digitally available. Yeah, we've done that one. We've done that one. Yeah, we've done that. Thank you very much, Moody Minis. Thank you very much, man. Very nicely typed out as well. I like the style. Prof Senior Low John. Professor Low John. Yeah. 635 says, I'm not sure anything would get me back into playing current 40k. The game is so bland, the gameplay so aggravating, the factions so boring that it's just not lost its appeal for me. Unfortunately, all these issues are product of Games Workshop's corporate direction, and the odds of changing it are next to zero. I agree, but it's a bit of a doomer mentality. I give you free reign there, Professor, and you could have told me what you would do to change it for 11th edition, but you elected to use your platform to gripe, which is fine. But again, make sure this mindset isn't creeping into other areas of your life. I see people doing this a lot. Guys, I'm not saying you do this, Professor, by the way. I'm not saying you do this. You probably don't. If you don't like a video on YouTube, and this isn't just on my channel, I see it on other people's channels. If you don't like a video, right, imagine being the kind of person who takes time out of your day to write something negative on a YouTube video when that person probably is never going to see you comment. Imagine having the time, right? If you have the time to put negative comments on YouTube videos that you don't like, you need to reevaluate your life. Just saying. Cool? Not saying you're doing this, Professor. It just reminded me of it, that's all. But yeah, next time I do one of these, Professor, make sure you come at me with what would you do? How would you change it? Remember what I said at the very preface of this video? Right? It's very easy to point things out that are wrong, but how would you change them to be right? You know, how would you do it? You missed your opportunity. Anyway, moving on. Marco Dynamic says, Codex Noob and Codex Sweatlords. I agree. I agree. Codex Noob and Codex Sweatlords. I agree wholeheartedly, my friend. So that is, everybody's got a heart. Everybody gets to go home happy. So, I hope you all enjoyed that. That is what you think should be happening with 11th edition Warhammer 40,000 to bring you back in and to lock you into the hobby. So Games Workshop, if you are listening, and I know one or two of you actually might be, then make sure you send this to people around and you can get it out there and you can have a look at it, have a listen to it, have a read of it, and then probably completely ignore it, as you don't give a monkey's left bollock what we think or what we do. So there you go. As long as we keep paying with our lovely wallets. Yeah? Cool. Love you all a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye now.